Hello friends, welcome to the Hindu editorial analysis. So today from the Hindu editorial section, we'll discuss two important articles. First, we'll discuss the article Black Lives and the Experiment Called America. Here the writer Ronnie Edan says that the onus of the discrimination uh, of the blacks by the whites lays in the society itself and not on the failings of the black people or the colored people. Here in this writer squarely blames the society's misconception which the society has garnered throughout centuries, is misplaced notions and prejudices about the black people that is resulting in numerous crimes against the blacks in USA, particularly in the USA and elsewhere in different parts of the world. So let's analyze briefly about what he has written about the discrimination the blacks are facing in USA and elsewhere. Regarding the violent protest that has erupted in the United States of America and elsewhere in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing by a white policeman, here the writer quotes Dr. Martin Luther King's one saying that riots are the language of the unheard. So herein the writer indirectly justifies the violence that has erupted and says that if the administration or the ruling class doesn't listen to the voice of the underprivileged or the depressed classes, then they're bound to resort to violence. And herein again he quotes Dr. Martin Luther King's another saying that white America needs to understand that it is poisoned to his soul by racism. Means he means to say that racism is so much ingrained in America's society and its social structure that it has almost corrupted the very edifice of American society's outlook. And the writer says that the killing of George Floyd was the third case in a period of 4 months that an unarmed black citizen was killed at the hands of white policemen. First, it was Ahmed Arbery, a 25-year-old citizen who was shot dead by a former law enforcement officer. And then it was Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old African-American emergency medical technician. She was shot dead 8 times while lying in her bed. So this, and the writer says that these recent killings are but the latest in America's long brutal history of the taking and brutalizing of black bodies. Means this is the tip of the iceberg which shows the prevalent discrimination that has been going on against the blacks in the United States of America. And here the writer says mentions one important fact that from the year 1619, when the first Africans were brought to American shores, to 1968, there is a long period of 49 years, the Africans or the blacks in America were even denied full citizenship rights. And it was only after the passing of the Fair Housing Act which granted modern civil rights to the Africans, and after the passing of the Voting Rights Act in the year 1965, that the blacks were granted the right to vote. So we can imagine that for long period of 350 years that the blacks were even denied of the basic human rights in as a citizen in the United States of America. And the writer says that in the long 401 years of existence in the United States of America from 1619 to 2020, it is only in the last 56 years that the African Americans have been afforded or have been given the rights and freedoms that accrue from American citizenship. And although they have been granted under the Constitution equal rights as American citizens, yet the brutal murder and oppression of the blacks in America continues unabated. So this is a very ironic fact. But the writer says that here an important difference can be observed, that in the past, when there was oppression or the killings of blacks, or they were been subjected to untold sufferings and miseries by the white racist agenda, the protests were mainly against those oppression was done by the blacks. But this time the protest against George Floyd's murder has been equally participated by the whites in America as well as the blacks. And this protest against the killing of George Floyd truly represents or reflects the diversity that more closely mirrors or more closely resembles the vision of America or the American society that it engenders or it tries to foster. And the writer also says that this protest against George Floyd that also differs from earlier protests because it not only transcended the blacks, but also it transcended racial lines, and also it traversed borders and oceans, as protests could be seen in the countries like Canada, United Kingdom, South America, South Africa, New Zealand, China, and Philippines. So means throughout the world, means it crossed the boundaries of nations, and everyone from US to like United States to Philippines, in the like everywhere, from Asia, Africa, and United America, everywhere there was protest against the racial, the injustice committed against George Floyd by the US policeman. And the writer says that on the injustice that blacks have been facing in the United States of America, he says that since just like just COVID-19, which was the mainstream media was saying that blacks were more vulnerable to the virus. Similarly, that Floyd's murder exposes the world to the world that the centuries-old state-sanctioned and extra-legal racial violence that and injustice that blacks have been subjected to in America from centuries. And these interactions, this deadly interaction between the black and the police, are symbol of deep structural and racial inequalities that permeates every aspect of American society, that is prevalent in every aspect of society. And it not only affects the blacks, but also the brown, the indigenous, red Indians, the Asian people of various Asians, and it is the blacks that are the most marginalized and most victimized community in the United States of America. And in the end, the writer says that the historical economic deprivation and the uh, imprisonment and the stigmatization that the blacks have been facing, and that is the result of the deep rooted prejudice that is presented in the American psyche. And since the American vast majority of the whites in the America were not acknowledging this fact, this reality, and that was the result of like continuous injustice the blacks have been facing in America. And since now the world has risen to this occasion against the injustice that the blacks are facing in America, so this is an opportune time to reject the null hypothesis, the false notion that the criminal justice and the socio-economic outcomes that are affecting the blacks in the injustice and the socio-economic outcomes that the blacks are facing in America are a result of the prevalent misconceptions and prejudices and malice that the whites have, and that is deep rooted in the American psyche against the blacks. And this is an opportune time to withdraw or to cleanse of those feelings and those notions, and then the America, then you can achieve the true concept of America. Otherwise, the concept of America will ultimately fail in the long run. So this was the analysis of the article Black Lives and the Experiment Called America. So hope you have liked it. If you've liked it, please like and comment and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.